All right, and I want to have a better conversation anyway because the homework was super easy. The point of the homework was not to do the homework correctly. The point of the homework was to make the connections from the homework. So I needed you to have something physically to do, to look at, to know where it came from, to make the connections. So the conversation today is more important than the homework itself. So I asked you to make a sampling distribution or make a tree diagram with the theoretical example of flipping a coin 3 times and doing for the number of heads. So this is your tree diagram. How many different possible outcomes are there? Should be an easy question. Everybody should know this. 8. I could count all those to know that it's 8. What's the other way I could figure out that that's 8? Because how many options are there at each level? And I do with what with those? So 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. So that's kind of just, remember that. So I've got 8 options. So I'm counting the number of heads. What is, if I flip a coin 3 times, what is the least number of heads I can have? 0. What's the most number of heads I can have? 3. So I've got 1 with 3. I've got 1 with 0. I've got 3 with 2. And I've got 3 with 1, which is technically what you use to make your graph. So on my graph, in general, what goes down here? Amount of heads there were. This would be how many there were. So we already talked about number of heads is from 0 to 3 in this scenario. My number of occurrences was either 1 or 3, but I have to go on a even scale here. So your distribution should look something like that, whether you drew like dots or bars or whatever. This is what the distribution is. So making the connection to coin flips in class yesterday. In class yesterday, we were trying to figure out the proportion of heads instead of the number of heads. Well, that's really easy. What can I do down here to make all of these proportions? How many times did I flip the coin? How many times did I flip the coin, theoretically? So that was proportion or number. Now it's proportion. This is still number of occurrences, so nothing changes. I could write them as fractions. I could write them as percents. The big thing is there, because I drew out this tree diagram, that means that this graph that I just made is from which outcomes of this scenario. And this is the point that I've been making all along. This graph is of which outcomes from this scenario. Don't overthink that. Which outcomes are these? Am I only taking some of them? That is every single possible outcome there could be written out once. So this is the graph of every single possible outcome. That is the only thing that really changes it to a sampling distribution is, well, I want it of a proportion. So these are proportions now. And it is of every possible sample there could have been. So with that, I'm probably going to go ahead and stop that video there.